Hello guys, welcome back to Hollywood Recapped. Today I will recap a 2021 drama series named Rawabi School for Girls. The storyline centers around Mariam, a high school girl. She is shy and sweet, yet she isn't afraid to speak up when necessary. Mariam attends Rawabi School for Girls, a prominent high school. She is beaten to the ground one day by a group of bullies who flee after knocking her out. The bullies are later questioned by the police. But they have no remorse for their actions. In fact, they openly deny any involvement in the incident. The scene reverts back 2 weeks. On her way to school, Maria boards the bus and sits next to her only best friend, Dina. Behind them are the school's two well-known girls, Layan and Rania. Layan is the head, and everyone fears her. Her father is a powerful figure with influence over the school's principal. Layan is never in trouble because of his influence. Even now, she refers to Mariam as a nerd and makes fun of her physical traits. Mariam chooses to ignore her and begins talking with Dina. Layan has a secret boyfriend who her parents dislike. She intends to flee at the next stop to meet him. When the bus reaches at the scheduled stop, she spills tea on Dina and distracts everyone before quietly exiting the bus. Mariam notices her escaping but doesn't think much of it. Dina attempts hard to remove the stain from her shirt at school. It is not the first time she has been bullied. In fact, Leanne, Rania, and their third companion Ruqayya are notorious for causing trouble. Layan changes into exposing clothes in a public washroom before seeing her boyfriend at a restaurant. This is her first time meeting him after talking to him on Facebook for months. She is clearly concerned that someone will notice them together. Back at school, their teacher, Miss Abir, introduces a new student named Nof to the class. Her distinct sense of style and attitude are new to the girls. Layan sneaks into the bus secretly when the bus is on its way back home. Rania is told everything about her date. The observant Dina overhears their talk and discovers that Layan is planning to sneak out again on Wednesday. Mariam and her family are eating dinner later that evening. Her father is a fun-loving man, however her mother is more rigid. They both adore Mariam and her younger brother. Mariam contacts her boyfriend Yazin before going to bed. They've been dating for approximately 2 weeks but haven't had many opportunities to talk. Given that they are best friends, Mariam feels awful that she hasn't told Dina about their relationship yet. As they talk, Yazin playfully refers to her as a nerd, which hits home with Mariam since her bullies always referred to her as so. The girls are playing basketball the next day in gym class. Layan and Mariam are teammates, but Layan refuses to transfer the ball to her. She smacks Mariam with the ball after being urged by the sports teacher. The teacher chastises her, but she continues to make fun of the sad girl. Despite the fact that Layan is rude to everyone, she is relegated to the sidelines with no consequences. Layan observes Mariam looking at the girls later in the changing room. She purposefully knocks into her and accuses her of aggressively grabbing her. Nof, who witnessed the incident, is sure that Layan is responsible, but she remains silent. Layan eventually tricks everyone into thinking Mariam grabbed her unfairly. They identify her as a freak and force her to cry over something that was not even her fault. Following the incident, Mariam is eager to seek revenge. When Dina notifies her of Layan's intention to escape out again, she informs the principal. After that, Layan is summoned to the principal's office and scolded for skipping class. If anyone else would have done the same, they would have immediately been expelled. But since this is Leanne, the principal lets her off with only a warning. Even the teacher Miss Abir is surprised at the fact that she didn't get into trouble. The principal's only explanation is that she doesn't want to anger Leanne's father. The bullies know that someone from their bus must have ratted Layan out to the principal. They blackmail a janitor into finding out who it is ready to teach them a lesson. By the end of the day they discover it was Mariam. Enraged by her audacity, they call her to the back of the school and beat her up. The poor girl can do nothing but cry for help. Leanne eventually pushes her head on the concrete and knocked her out. The girls then flee before anyone can apprehend them. Nof discovers Mariam unconscious a few minutes later and seeks an ambulance. The bullies are being questioned by the police in the following scene. They smugly claim that they had nothing to do with the situation and even mock Mariam for being injured. The flashback shows Nof watching the girls beating up Mariam. Rania, on the other hand, threatened her to continue fighting. So when the officer asks if she knows who the perpetrator is, she remains silent. When Mariam returns to school a few days later, an assembly is organized to identify who the bullies are. When asked to tell the truth, Mariam is so scared that she can hardly form a coherent sentence. Finally, she claims her memory is hazy and she cannot identify who it was. The principal is pleased that Layan escaped difficulties. The police officer then gives the students the opportunity to confess if they know anything. Leanne uses this chance to admit that she did, in fact, push Mariam, but it was in self-defense in response to Mariam inappropriately touching her. The girls agree with her and no one believes her when she says differently. No feels so bad for her but lacks the courage to say up. Mariam is suspended for 2 weeks because officials feel she is a pervert. While Leanne gets away with another warning. Mariam's mother believes Leanne's allegations and feels her daughter is insane. Mariam's world is shattered and she is at her lowest point of her life. However, the sadness gradually gives way to irritation and rage. She is sent to a therapist for treatment for the next 2 weeks, but she only talks about Leanne and all of her appointments. Dina stops responding to her texts and fully gives up her, making life much more difficult for her. 2 weeks later, Leanne and her friends come into the school like they own it. And they are not afraid that Mariam will reveal the truth because even if she does, in any case, no one is going to believe her. They are then informed about the national football team's recruitment. When only 2 girls may be chosen, Ruqayya wishes to be included, but Rainy and Leanne dismiss her, arguing that no one can compete with them. Ruqayya feels excluded and frustrated, but she does not express her sentiments. This produces a schism in their connection. Mariam arrives at school and runs into Dina. Dina discovered Yazin and Mariam's relationship and is angry that she kept it hidden till now. Furthermore, because she was not in the shower that day, she believes Leanne's story. Mariam feels heartbroken by her friend's coldness. When she eventually enters the classroom, the bullies make fun of her once more. Mariam dashes to the bathroom to carry out her first plan to ruin Leanne and her friends. She sets off the fire alarm, leading everyone in the school to flee. She steals Leanne's phone when no one is in the classroom. Then she plays the voice message from the girls in the announcement room disparaging Miss Abir. The entire classroom overhears them disparaging the unfortunate mother. The girls are hauled to Miss Abir's office following the incident. Despite their attempts to play the victim card, Miss Abir does not listen to them. She punishes them by assigning them to janitor duty for the entire day and prohibiting them from participating in any sporting activity. This means they won't be able to try out for the football squad. The girls grudgingly agree to follow orders. They dress in janitor clothes and clean the school grounds while the other girls mock them. Mariam is seated on a bench, pleased that her plan was successful. Just then, Nof approaches her, claiming to know who was behind the prank. Mariam first denies any involvement, but this does not persuade Nof. She promises not to tell anyone, but she does ask her to be careful. A flashback reveals that Nof was expelled from her previous school for hacking into the school's database and obtaining midterm questions. Later that day, the girls are summoned to the auditorium for an anti-bullying presentation. When the presenter requests that someone volunteer as a victim of bullying, Miss Abir, much to Leanne's annoyance, asks her to proceed. The host then asks someone else to play the bully in the act. Although most of the females are afraid to bully Leanne, Nof raises her hand and surprises everyone. She performs admirably in the dramatization and taunts Leanne. Leanne, on the other hand, attempts to intimidate her but is helpless in front of the teachers. By the end of it, everybody has called Leanne stinky. She is humiliated and enraged with Nof for messing with her. Leanne begged the principal to let them join the football tryouts as a favor after the performance. Despite Miss Abir's wishes, they are granted permission. During gym class, Nof informs Mariam that she was scheduled to graduate last year before being expelled. She didn't want to get engaged in another scandal after causing so much difficulty for her mother. Mariam recognizes her situation and forgives her. The bullies then participate in the game for the tryouts, with the exception of Ruqayya, who does not want to compete with her friends. Mariam will finally have to face Leanne one-on-one. She kicks the ball, but it hits on Leanne's head. She becomes furious and attempts to strike her back, but is stopped by the gym teacher. Rainia confesses after the session that she discovered Nof watching them when they were beating up Mariam. She hasn't told her friends because she is afraid Nof will find out. The girls now assume Nof is responsible for the voice note hoax. They attack Nof's younger sister after school and take her inhaler. When Nof attempts to stop them, they threaten to keep her away from them for her own safety. Nof has had enough of the bullies and cannot risk injuring her sister. As a result, she decides to join Mariam with whatever she has planned. That night, she rushes to Mariam's house and provides support. Although initially doubtful, Mariam outlines her plan to exact proper retribution on the bullies and the corrupt principal. They decide to start with Ruqayya because she is the most vulnerable of the group. The following day at school, Mariam walks into the cafeteria and sees Dina with the bullies. They're forcing her to compete with the girl to see who can eat the most. The girls make fun of them, but Dina, being naive, believes they are laughing with her rather than at her. After the contest, Mariam informs Dina that she is being mocked, but the girl refuses to listen. She claims it was fun and returns to her new buddies. Later that day, the school will host a charity festival. Where boys from other schools are welcome to attend. When school is finished, all of the girls rush to the bathroom to get ready. There are several of them doing their hair and makeup. As Mariam is in the stand preparing for the plan, she also receives a text from Yazin, who is planning to attend the event. She's been so preoccupied with the bullies that she hasn't talked to him for a while. Meanwhile, Leanne and Raini are looking forward to the festival because both of their boyfriends will be there. Leanne sends a photo of herself with her bra straps visible to her boyfriend. Ruqayya, the more restrained and conservative of the two, is taken aback. When she informs them that he may send it to someone else, they mock her as a prude. Ruqayya is aware that they are not joking and consider her to be rude. She states that she has been talking to a guy on Facebook for a week in order to fit in with them. But he doesn't have many clear images of himself on his profile. Leanne and Raini are suspicious, but Ruqayya appears to be charmed with the guy. When Dina comes from the washroom in her attire, the girls lavish her with compliments. Ruqayya offers to help her in getting a stain out of her white jeans. Instead, she paints it with red nail polish and snaps it. They quickly upload it online and make a mockery of Dina. Everyone laughs at her, and she flees, crying. When she is alone and unhappy, Mariam approaches her. Dina apologizes for her nasty behavior, and the friends reunite. Mariam also informs her of the plot to destabilize Leanne and her gang. When Nov discovers she shared the plan with Dina, she is worried that if anyone finds out, she will be expelled and no other school will accept her. Because the plan is important to her, she does not want to include an outsider like Diana. Because of the situation, Mariam and Nov finally argue. Nov declines to assist and goes away. Because the next phase of the strategy was wholly predicated on Nov and her hacking ability, Mariam is back where she started. A few hours later, the celebration begins and a large group gathers at the school. Nov approaches Maria and Dina in the cookie stall and agrees to help them again. She still dislikes Dina but is willing to give her a second opportunity. The girls ultimately reveal that the mysterious man Ruqayya has been chatting with for the past week is Mariam. They intend to use the non-existent man to get Ruqayya into trouble. Because both Leanne and Raini are preoccupied with their boyfriends, Ruqayya will be alone for the majority of the night, therefore now is the time to strike her. Following that, Leanne sings a song for everyone, while Miss Abir keeps the females and guys in the audience apart. Yazan approaches Mariam after the performance. He tries to talk to her, but she is too preoccupied with Leanne to listen. Yazan eventually calls her out for being a bad friend and breaks up with her. The sounds doesn't affect Mariam much and she quickly returns to examining the bullies. Elsewhere, Rainia, Leanne, and their boyfriends are in a private spot away from the crowd. Ruqayya feels out of place because the couples are conversing and she is bored. Mariam texts her as the impostor to keep her occupied. When the couples get hungry, they request that Ruqayya bring them drinks and food because she is free. She reluctantly agrees and returns to the festival. Dina splashes the drinks on Ruqayya to keep her distracted for a while longer. Meanwhile, Noah sends Miss Abir to pursue Leanne and Rainia to the spot where they were hanging out. The scheme is successful, and when Ruqayya returns, she discovers that her friends have ditched her. She even attempts to call them, but no one answers. She gives up the drinks on the bench and goes in search of them. She ultimately catches them in the cafeteria, but the girls remain unapologetic. They laugh it off and claim to be preoccupied. Ruqayya decides to spend the night alone after having had enough of them. At the same time, Dina shoots the couples in the cafeteria. Ruqayya is now on her own and only speaks with her secret boyfriend. Taking advantage of her weakness, Mariam sends her a picture of a random person and requests a picture of herself. The image is a link that will allow her to visit Ruqayya's social media. Ruqayya clicks on it, assuming it's a snapshot of her secret boyfriend, and falls right into their trap. Ruqayya walks to the restroom and takes a picture, as requested by her boyfriend. She sends it to Mariam to demonstrate that she has not been approved. With the image and access to her social media, the group can finally carry out the next part of the plan. Only a minute later, the picture from Ruqayya's page is uploaded to Facebook. Everyone at the festival begins to stare and whisper at her. When she eventually opens her phone, she pauses in disbelief since several people have commented on her post, calling her immodest. And this all for today of the first season of this drama series. See you in the second season recap, which I will be presenting to up in couple of days. Thank you for giving your time.